Hello and good morning, everyone. Welcome to Steel Mint Engage 2.2, a 5-day webinar series covering a wide range of topics relating to iron ore, coal, scrap, steel, ferroalloys, and graphite electrodes. Today's session is on India's scrap generation from end-of-life vehicles in the next 5 years. I'm Lalita, your host for this session. And with me is my co-host, Mr. Jaiprakash Sahu. We would like to thank the Ministry of Steel and Indian Steel Association for their support. We also thank our sponsors NMDC, JSW Steel and Tata Steel. I now welcome our keynote speaker, Mr. Sachin Shetty, Managing Partner, Questro Consulting. Mr. Shetty is a mining engineer from the National Institute of Technology. He has over 19 years of experience in the business research and strategic consulting domain, spanning construction, infra, power, oil and gas, chemicals, and materials and metal sectors. Welcome, sir.
Thank you.
Before starting the session, my colleague, Mr. Jaiprakash Sahu, would like to give a brief presentation on Indian Scrap Consumption Index. JP, sir, over to you.
Thank you, Lalita. Thanks a lot. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, sir, Sachin sir, for joining us. Before going to your session, we would like to introduce our consumption pattern. How is scrap consumption pattern in India? So I will just allow me to present me a small presentation. We will just look into some numbers that. So what in Steel Mint, what we are doing is we are tracking Indian scrap consumption through an index which is being published in 15th of every month. In this index, what we primarily look into is how much scrap is being consumed at different sources from domestic and in import sources, and how is the consumption pattern in trend is being followed. Are we increasing or decreasing over the years and quarters? So let's look into those figures that what are our estimations and how this industry is going to behave in future. First of all, India's crude steel capacity and production. India is currently producing producing capacity is around 145 million tons in 2021, and it is estimated to grow to 270 million tons in 2030 with the CAGR of 6.6%. These are Steel Mint numbers. And currently, the production route in India is primarily through the primary production route and the secondary. Primary route is using iron ore as a raw material, key raw material, and the secondary production route is using scrap for their production. If you look into the share of these two routes, how they are going to change, currently scrap route accounts more share in production than the blast furnace and basic oxygen furnace route. Currently, basic oxygen furnace route accounts for around 44% share, which is going to be 56% by fiscal year 2030. The reason behind this is because majority of our upcoming capacity expansion is in blast furnace and BOF route only, and there is also lower scale of scrap generation that is different for electric arc furnace and induction furnace producers. As per Steel Mint numbers, scrap generation may go up to 70 million tons by 2030. And as per experts, 10 million ton, with that 70 million tons, 10 million tons may be used by the foundry only. Apart from that, there will be some cleaner technologies to alter the dynamics of country's DRI industry to combat the emission that is emerges from the dominant theme in the industry, that Indian coal-based DRI sector is likely to come under increasing pressure to switch over to fossil-free जो hydrogen and cyan gas derived through thick gasification of domestic coal. So cleaner technologies are definitely expected to reshape this industry. If you look into the core raw materials, so we are using iron ore that is sinter and pellet form in through blast furnace route. We are also making DRI, which is used in electric furnaces or electric route. We are also using PRI in electric furnaces route. And scraps are totally going. Scraps are being used in both in basic oxygen furnaces also and electric furnaces also, but majority share is in electric furnaces only. And coal is being used as an energy source in iron ore route, and electricity is used as an energy source in electric furnaces route. So what are the methodologies and assumptions we are following in scrap consumption index? Basically, scrap is being used in India by both the steel making routes, whether it may be basic oxygen furnace route or maybe in electric arc furnace route. Although electric furnaces route, maybe the share may be different for both the routes. Basically, in scrap consumption index, we are back calculating scrap requirements by eliminating that those metallic mix which are DRI and pig iron, which are being used in electric furnaces. Also, we are taking account of scrap that is being used in BOF furnaces. So there are some certain assumptions we are following currently for fiscal year 19 till the fiscal year 22, which will be revised periodically. And currently we are taking hot metal crude steel that yield percentage 87%, pig iron yield in electric furnaces 97%, DRI 80%, scrap in electric arc furnaces 93%, scrap in basic oxygen furnace 97%, and scrap charge mix in basic oxygen furnace 8%. These numbers are derived from the industry feedback, which we got from major players. We are not considering currently the foundry scrap or CI scrap in this model. So this is the India's scrap consumption index. This is the major calculation sheet. Here what we are doing is we are collecting different data from JPC or from standard publications only, that JPC data we follow. For DRI production, we are following steel mint derived numbers. And taking into account of DRI production, pig iron production, we are calculating and crude steel production, which is again projected by the JPC and its share. We are calculating scrap uses in blast furnace route and electric furnaces route that account electric arc furnace and induction furnace both. And what we come to know about is that around 17 million tons steel scrap is being consumed in fiscal year 21, and that is projected to go 23 million tons in fiscal year 2022. We have also eliminated that import and export factors in DRI and pig iron to take it. And this is the index summary. So how this index, what are the significance of this index and what output we are getting from this index? First of all, it shows that in fiscal year 21 to 22, we are moving towards we are having less dependency on imported scrap. We are using more of domestic scrap, and the scrap consumption is going higher. Means in fiscal year 21, it was estimated that 13 million tons, 14 million tons will be approximately 17 million tons will be approximately used, and that is going to be 23 million tons. So there is a shift of 14%, sorry, 33% total. And although during this period, the crude steel production was increased to 14%, the major thing which take into account is that import numbers are again going downward, and we are having more domestic scrap availability or uses for the production. Also, one major thing is that in metallic mix of electric furnaces route, that it is hovering around in fiscal year 21, that is 77%, 23%. The mixture of metallic mix that is scrap to metallic mix, is again in the electric furnace route also we are preferring more scrap than DRI, pig iron and hot metal. So it is also increasing 4%. So overall, this index is giving how much imports and how much consumption, how much scrap is consumed from domestic market will change from the last month compared to the same month of last year. And this index will also help us to understand industry preference towards DRI, iron ore products and scrap based, which is more competitive. So and we are producing this index 15th of every month. If you look into overall account, that how much account that in fiscal year 2022 the steel production through scrap route is about is hovering around 20 to 22%. Now there are certain questions which arises. Will these numbers or figures are indicating that India will generate 60 plus million tons, but how India will generate those? Will we in real scenarios will we be able to touch those numbers, because we are currently in a very less number? And what will be the sources of scrap generation? Will that be only absolute scrap from ELV, absolute scrap from demolition, end of life, only from scrap? And currently we are having scrap from these sources only, that from scrap, home scrap. So I will now go to Shetty sir to just give some highlights that how will be the India's scrap generation pattern. So over to you, sir.
Yeah, thanks, Jay. Thanks for that introduction. Okay, good morning, everyone. Jay, Lalita, and the participant. I know it's a very vast subject, honestly, and packaging it in 8-10 minutes is nearly impossible. I'll try my best to communicate and to extend what JP has been talking about in terms of the self-sustainability, in terms of scrap being one of the alternate route of feedstock in steel making. Do we have that sources? Do we have the sustainable sources to feed that? And how much would ELB be contributing in this whole venture, right? So let me just quickly give you a sense of what the scrap scenario was as on last year. We consumed about 33 million tons of scrap. Near about 6.5 million was import, and the balance we are able to generate it domestically. If you look at the different consuming outlets, you had near about 20 million tons consumed across secondary steel mills, about 7 million tons across foundries, and then 2.5 million tons amongst the ISPs, the balance to the stainless steel producers. So if you look at in terms of the percentage, secondary steel producers accounted for 62% of the overall consumption of the scrap. In that, IF-based units did consume about 17.5 million tons, and balance with the re-rollers and arc furnace units. Looking at the source of scrap of the 33 million tons that we consumed, and of the 26.5 million tons that scrap generated domestically, nearly 70% of that scrap is in the form of new scrap here. So when you talk about new scrap, it is operational one, which is steel mills and foundries. That is the production, excess or wastage, yield losses, etc. That accounted for 10 million, and the balance from the industrial and operational scrap is about 8.5 million. So you look at the old scrap or the end of life scrap, which ELV is part of, contributed to about 8 million tons of that total, old scrap that is generated. Coming to ELV, now, of course, one thing that comes to our mind is that when you talk about ELV, it's the auto. Of course, we'll also have to keep in mind that there are other, you know, mobile units such as rail stocks, hard stocks, then the shipbuilding, and a few more do contribute to the overall, scrap generation. Auto definitely is more, takes a significant share in terms of probably the, enormous installed base that we have. But to all your surprise, railway did contribute a lot. Railways generate near about 3.5–4 million tons. Shipbuilding does about 1 million, or and then the balance is from the auto sector, which is at about 3 to 3.2 million tons. Now, the two routes to arrive at it. One, of course, you look at the registered vehicles and take all the vehicles which are above 15 years in case of commercial, and then about 20 years in case of passenger vehicles, and then you attach a percentage of recycling rate to each of those vehicles, and you will know the total population that is available for recycling. However, this scenario is totally different. Fact that the percentage of those eligible vehicles that come in for recycling is just a mere share of it. Probably give a sense, 1/3 or one third of eligible vehicles do come for the recycling. It could be the reason could be multiple. The efficiency of aggregation, the ease of surrendering the vehicle, and then to processing, the payment systems, the approval process, the inspection, all in very at a rudimentary stage across the value chain. And of course, on top of it, the important element is the recycling process and the establishment itself. If you look at the Indian ELV recycling, you would say it's a most unorganized form. Amongst the vehicle that go for recycling, and if I had to consider ship under that, ship breaking would be one of the foremost organized sector in the country. Relatively organized, but yeah, auto and others, it's very unorganized. The images that you see are from one of the prominent vehicle dismantling facilities in the country, or the clusters in the country, in Delhi. We also have a similar clusters in and around Bangalore, then Mumbai, Chennai, Pune, Kolkata, etc. So these set of activities are clustered around maybe 20 to 22 different centers all over the country. Delhi, as you must have seen, Delhi contributes to large, near about 50% of those dismantling come recycling comes out of Delhi cluster. So lack of and formal sector, ease of surrendering, processing, documentation, and inspection leads to very small percentage of the eligible vehicle coming into the mainstream for recycling. See a good opportunity thanks to the Government of India initiatives, and of course some of the investments that are coming in from the auto or auto associated OEM associated companies. Soon some steel mills like Tata may also join this whole progress in terms of the recycling that would increase the recycling rate and also the efficiency of it. So as you see, this is the overall chain of process of recycling, dismantling and recycling in the country today. Out of the total scrap that comes out of an auto recycling, a large extent of that component are reused. So while we produce maybe producing about 7 million ton of total recycled volume of auto or ELV, but what it actually gets into the steel making maybe would be in the range of 3 to 3.2 million ton. Balance is refurbished and retailed, and which is reused. That is large. The different stakeholders involved, as you see in the current format, large quantum of the vehicle, ELV vehicle that comes for dismantling and recycling is through the auction route, right? The government auction, which are defense, PSUs, LICs, then bank, insurance companies, which could be confiscated, vehicle in different stage where it is returned back to the lender for various reasons, are auctioned, and these scrap wholesalers in different pockets, like we mentioned, Delhi, bid for these vehicles, and then they purchase this vehicle at us, whatever the price they decide to buy, and nominal. I mean, I understand some of the vehicle that they bought it at $400 level, 25 to 30,000 levels as well. So available cheaply, and they're probably one of the reasons why this also have remained at unorganized levels, for the delta that these participants are able to generate between the purchase of the old vehicle to the refurbished parts and the scrap that they sell. So once they purchase, then it goes through a series of dismantling process, as we saw earlier, largely manual deployment. There are no shredder, while these companies are aware of the shredders, possible mechanized tools available, but now they would go through the very rudimentary process of breaking it down, sorting, aggregation, then the part of the value component goes to refurbishment, retailing, and then remaining ones goes for scrap, as scrap to the steel units, sold via the traders, and then whatever the left out is dumped as landfills. Yeah, so how did we arrive at this whole recycling rate and the overall weight of the volume of the steel that is generated on the ELVs? So as you see, when an eligible vehicle that is having reached the life penetration, it is available for two options: one, refurbishment; the second, for scrappage. So nearly 25 to 30% of the vehicle goes for goes into the refurbishment, and then typically these are the iron vehicles and sold in the second, third hand market. Out of the scrapped vehicles, there are steel scraps, which accounts for about 80 to 90% of the total component. Then you have a recycled part would be in the range of about 38 to 42%. Different, aspects in terms of the recovery ratio across different vehicles. In fact, this is a estimates that we generated sitting with the different recyclers in different markets. They've been kind enough to share these details. And we use this to establish that 3.2 million ton of volume. Well, talking about our future, you see, Mahindra Sero is one of the organized recyclers with the formal setup, with shredder that are operational currently in Noida area. As per them, and as per the registered vehicle installed base, by 2020 we should have about 81 million vehicles which are eligible for recycling. As per our estimate, India did dismantle process about 25 million vehicles as on last year. Looking ahead, we're seeing that the new government policies, the incentive to incentivizing the scrappage, then also encouraging newer recycling, more formal recycling facilities to come up. We see the generation to increase the efficiency of the recycling and the ratio to go up. We could see this industry feeding about 8 to 9 million ton of ELV scrap into the system by 2026, and about 14 to 15 million ton in FY31. Some of the development, as you already seen. So one of the reasons why people continue to retain this manual operation is that the low acceptance of the shredded material by the recycling units. And when we mention awareness, I think this aspect has to change. I know one of the large steel mill has set up, and they're selling this, shredded material in branded shredded material. I think the awareness about this aspect has to increase to be able to, accommodate more shredded material in the recycling facility. The second most important aspect is the entry of the formal, sector into these ELV recycling. So we already seen 2 facilities, OEM supported facilities that are operational, could generate close to about 75, or could process about 75,000 units. As you see, very, very insignificant as compared to the total installed base. So just insignificant, in terms of the volume, formal sector volume that is available. Could see, if you have to go by the Government of India, policy guidelines and their expectation, we should see somewhere between 75 to 100 recycling centers in the next 3 to 4 years. One, there's enormous, potential. 2, with this whole green steel initiatives, there is going to be shift in the feedstock into the steel making process, and auto steel does make significantly better quality steel in homogeneous grades, etc., and can aid in India's guidelines with the net carbon zero emissions, and also make the process much more robust and sustainable for the steel makers in the country. That's it for today. Anyone has any further interest to understand this further, please do get in touch with us. We'll be happy to support. As I said, it's too short a time, and I hope I sensitized you all with the market facts and then enormous opportunities that lies ahead of us. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Shetty. Now is the time for questions. So I have one question for you, sir. How much ELV recycling units are coming in India and in which locations?
Sorry, can you please repeat the question?
Sure, sir. How many ELV recycling units are coming in India and in which locations?
Well, we have actually 2 operational, which are OEM supported, as I said, and there's one which is Tata Steel Recycling in Rohtak. So all the 3 are in the northern region. We hear companies like Tata Motors are actively pursuing with the state government of Gujarat and Maharashtra, and they have expressed their interest to set up something in the west. We don't have any formal recycling facilities in, other than north at the moment. And as you see, quite, obviously that the fact is today near Delhi and that NCR region accounts for 50% of the ELV recycling. So more and more ELV facilities could come up in the northern region. As per the Ministry of Road and Transport, Mr. Gadkari's projections, expecting about 75 such units in the near term, and taking up to maybe about 400 authorized, distribution collection centers, by 2026. So I think that's the guideline. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, looking at the capacities that we have today, the Mahindra Sera is about 50,000. Maruti Suzuki is about 24,000 units a year. I think we can have many more. We are talking about in an informal sector, it is 25 million units that are dismantled and recycled today. So you do the math, you will know the number of units that are required, unless we go into mega scale. Yeah.
Yeah, Shetty sir, I have a curiosity. How recycling plants in developed countries are different than India's? Means in India, I think it's just we are just started. So how it's going to be currently, how it is different, and how it is going to be in future?
Okay, JP, actually, see, I think one of the, obviously some of the, US, Europe, there are a lot of formal, recyclers with shredders and then other, professional dismantling, processes. But I did deep dive into Japanese market that excited me. I did look at it. That's a more organized. I think this whole ELV, plans were launched in 2005, and ever since then they've been growing in terms of both the ELV that are gone for recycling and also the number of centers. So I think one of the key imperatives for the formalization and the growth of these clusters are one, the stakeholders involvement. And you see auto OEMs, and the mills are involved in this whole recycling and the generation. So you have organized formal sectors in investor led, but they're supported by the OEs. I mean, be it Toyota or Nissan or Renault, so there are companies who commit right to the supply and this one of the ELVs. The second aspect is, I think, I find interestingly that they're incentivized either in terms of the announcement that the day you want to express your intention to surrender your vehicle for as a ELV, the process is much more effective and customer friendly. So right from the documentation to the release of the certificate, the release of the fund, it's very effective. They've brought in a lot of digital tools to take care of these processes. You just have to express your interest from the location, your location, go on these particular sites or the apps and then express it. And from the time you express your interest to the time your vehicle is taken, the documentation and the payment that you receive, it's all seamless, right? So that ease of this one. I mean, if let's say, for example, contrary to this, I have seen a lot of Indian when we talk to the dismantlers, if the vehicle is registered in Delhi and the person is in Bangalore, he has to bring his car to Delhi to surrender it, and that's a lot more cumbersome. So I think there has to be a mechanism which will take care of these challenges, and that has helped. I find different markets have incentivized this whole process. I think in India too, some of the policy guidelines are in that direction. For us, I think as we are going to follow the global market practices in ELV and recycling, we can refer to these templates and also, of course, customize and to suit our requirements, on all accounts. So we can sort of not just catch up, but also leapfrog in terms of the whole process and the make it much more easier for whoever want to be individuals or the organizations to put their vehicle for recycling.
Sir, as you talked about some policy means which are going to come in future made by the government, I think what maybe means government step and which type of policy may shape this industry in a better terms, according to you?
JP, can you rephrase your question? I don't.
Sir, actually, I wanted to know that you talked about some incentives. Apart from incentives, what may be there in government policy to shape this industry, since we have less availability of vehicles currently in India? So, which type of government policy will make it available more? Because there is a lot of consumer behavior also involved during this whole phase of transition. So, what do you expect from a government policy?
See, I think JP, it's. I mean, there could be many. There are. I'm sure there are think tanks. They're thinking on this at the ministry levels. But across the industry, what we observe is, like, for example, you are talking about wanting to consume more steel, wanting to develop, expand our manufacturing, right? I mean, as we see ELV, of course, those some of the components may have been over-engineered. For the matter, auto takes a much more tolerance when we develop steel or make component. Because you don't want a situation where a vehicle breaks down or you have an accident because a component breaks. So there's already a degree of this one which is factored in over to the required parameters. So obviously, vehicle, at the end of 15 years, you will still find your engine you won't be surprised, engine is running, brake pads are running, and so on and so forth. So you will find that already there are 25 million vehicles that have come for recycling in India in different format. 50% of those components are, extracted and refurbished. You see, that's, I think that's about 7 million tons of scrap, which is already going back to the system. So I think we can plug that. You say once the vehicle comes for recycling 15 years, you stop everything, don't refurbish. So what you do is you enhance steel consumption, you enhance auto production, component production, and then add to the overall, output, right? So that could be one thing that we can do, and it can help increase the ELV recycled scrap by almost 2 times. Other than that, I think policy level, and there are people to decide. Yeah. Thanks.
So would like to know the difference between ELV unit and normal shredder unit.
Sorry, I'm sorry, Lalit, I missed your question.
Sir, I would like to know the difference between ELV unit and normal shredder unit.
ELV unit as in?
Sir, actually, what Lalita is trying to ask is, normally in ELV recycling unit means it is different from how it is different end of life vehicle recycling unit than a normal shredder unit, means normal recycling unit in ferrous scrap.
In terms of the technical aspect, I don't know.
Technical and yeah, that's fine, sir.
No, I'm sorry, I'm not able to answer that.
Okay. That's fine, sir. Means apart from this ferrous scrap, means there are non-ferrous metals also which get generated during the process in ELV
Yes.
recycling, and
Yes.
also there are other materials which also get generated. So what you see means, will India be able to use all those, or how the generation pattern will be, and how much generation will be there? Means what you expect?
So ELV non-ferrous component is at about 10 to 12%. If this thing is right, let me check. Yeah, it's part of 10 to 15%. Yeah, aluminum and copper. So yeah. So JP, 10 to 15% of a typical ELV is non-ferrous. Yeah, and I think that will continue. Probably it's far more sorted when it comes to ELV, but I think there are other forms, right? For non-ferrous, there are other forms. It's not the ELV is the main source. We have seen engine block and others, of course, makes a good source of recycled component that is, used in the furnaces, right, across for secondary aluminum ingot making. Copper component is the cables and others, which are very marginal. So as I said, for the non-ferrous, you have other forms, like, for example, building demolition, right? Building demolition, then the cable conductors and wire rods. Those are the very large constituents of the, scrap forms, right? Whereas for steel, of course, ELV is one, but you have, as we see, the process scrap becomes a large contributor. So old scrap to new scrap, as we saw, new scrap is 75% the old scrap. But in the case of non-ferrous, it is the old scrap. Like, for example, copper, it's the motor windings, right? The cable, the conductor, the discarded cable and wires, the conductors, they contribute to large, share of the scrap. So for non-ferrous entities, I think this may not be in the pecking order, of course. So you have a recycler, you don't need to set up and focus non-ferrous ELV setup here. So they will obviously sell it to the other non-ferrous traders. So one important aspect is, when you talk about this recycler that we spoke about, they just don't do ELV, right? They also do appliance, they also do electrical machinery. You'll also find somebody dismantling and discarded railway coach, right? So it's a combination of ELV plus equipment plus machinery and etc. So I think from a non-ferrous point of view, again, to summarize, alternative ELV is a major source of generation for them.
Fine, sir. As you mentioned that there are 75 ELV recycling units are projected by the minister. What you see means this recycling unit will also need input. Means the kind of that number of vehicles should also be available in market to cater them those recycling units. Do you see that will government of India allow import of old vehicles from overseas, or what policies should they?
We have just too many vehicles in India already. I think we should start consuming first and then think about importing. I mean, as I said, we are only within the existing scheme of dismantling today, we are only consuming about 25% of the eligible vehicles. So there's quite a lot to do that. But I'm not ruling out import. I mean, why would anyone start, exporting? I mean, with green steel initiatives, everybody would want to retain that scrap that is generated in their home country, right? There would be more recycling facility. So it's going to be more, distributed setup, deglobalized kind of a scenario going forward. There, in fact, the government may go and put an, regulation not to export any of those recycled component, including ELV. So I don't think that is something which is going to be, a practical aspect going forward, because they would want to, like we were talking about, self-reliance, right? I mean, so it is all going to be inward looking. You like to look at what you have and then how do you maximize that. So through either policy initiatives, mechanization, digitization, and then improved processes. Yeah.
So one of the questions from one of our delegates, do you see India to set up more of shredding recycle units and collection hubs? Currently,
Yes.
Mahindra Eugene JV with MSTC setting up the recycling units. Current government policy for these units?
Definitely, Lalit, I think that's obviously the direction. We will see more, recycling units, shredders, automated units that are going to come up. That's the only probable way in which we can, maximize the available, eligible vehicles that are, reaching the end of their life. Yeah. Or improve the efficiency in the recycling process. Yeah. So manual is not the long-term solution. I mean, we have been sustaining in the mode of manual, but it has to switch to recycling. I mean, more formal, automated, mechanized like shredders. Yeah.
So one more question. Sorry to interrupt, sir. So one more question. What are the FOR plant delivery price levels of scraps in Chennai?
No, too specific. We'll pass.
Okay.
Sir, as we have seen that there are recent ELV units which are being set up by the automobile companies only with the joint ventures. Means, do you also see that there will be some other players apart from this automobile unit will set up
Definitely.
What you see means whether it will be easy for small players also to set up a shredder unit, means how they can make this cost effective, means processing is not a big issue, but how that business will be viable, means how you should see that.
Okay, very macro. Shred, I think I can relate to the question that Lalita asked. Then, is this shredder, is it something which is universal, which can take in any scrap that generate, not necessarily yield? I think if there are shredders like that, I think there is a merit in considering it. But however, it is risky proposition. You may not make money. You need minimum, even if you want to look at a distributed small setups, you need to have, for a 2,000 units of recycling, I think it costs you around 40-45 crores. So it's a large investment. You need to look at your returns first and then make a call. But yeah, if there are, to extend that, if you're looking at one standalone unit somewhere, let's say in remote place, I would say no. But you are looking at an chain of such units, of course, supported by either a mill or by an OEM is a good starting point, right? So that's, I mean, if you look at Japan, there are many who have been successful because there are mills or the auto OEMs who have supported them, and they have multiple units and not just one unit. If it is going to be standalone, then they could look at there would be a certain constraint in the catchment area, but both from the point of view availability of ELV and other forms of vehicle being discarded, all the sources. So they can look at what is around and then take a call. I think inspection collection could become the starting point, and that should lead you to establish if there is a sufficient business case, and then they can think about that. So they can start in stages. If this question is from an potential investor or an entrepreneur, so you can go take a in staged manner.
Okay, JP sir, any more questions do you have?
I guess Sachin sir has very aptly covered all those aspects of ELV recycling, and thank you very much, sir. I think we have covered all our questions, and Lalita, it's over to you.
Okay, sir, due to time constraints, we have to bring this webinar to a close. Again, a very big thank you to you and the viewers for joining us in this webinar. We do hope you all enjoyed the session. Also, we would like to extend our gratitude to the Ministry of Steel and Interstate Association for their support, and our sponsors NMDC, JSW Steel and Tata Steel. This is your host Lalita signing out along with my colleague Jay Prakash. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Good day.
Sachin sir.
Bye, JP. Yeah.
Yeah, sir, this is Vaibhav from Steel Mint Events team.
Yes,
Hi,
Vaibhav.
sir.
Hi.
Sir, I just wanted to have a question on behalf of the whole Engage team. Like, we would be happy to know your experience, sir, since the starting of this webinar till now. I mean, just for our, your feedback is really important for us, sir. How was your experience?
Oh, great. I think you are wonderful. You guys have, done this very organized. The conceptual, from the point of conceptualize to the implementation, it's been great. I think the topics, the speakers, the staggered, the event schedule, and also I think the operational aspect of it. I mean, right on time, follow-ups, and then glad you didn't wait for a participant to join. You started on time. So these details are, I think, impressive. These are very impressive. So good luck, and then I'm sure we could have a much more and extended collaboration going forward.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Good day. Bye.
Bye, sir.